Hey guys, Jeff Francoeur here. Thanks for listening to our content, and please like and subscribe. Back to Pure Athlete. I'm Jeff Francoeur with Britt Lee and Brad Williams. Men, how are y'all today?
Doing great.
Great.
Excited about today.
Yes, I'm excited to introduce today's guest. Played in the NBA for 16 years. My favorite part, though, he was drafted by the Orioles in baseball. I love that he's got some baseball blood in him, but also raised two pretty good little basketball players and a daughter who played volleyball. So, Dell Curry, thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure, guys. Good to see you guys.
Great to see you. Thank you.
So before we get going, kind of just ask you, I know you do the Hornets games, but kind of what else have you been up to the last year or so?
Well, the Hornets games take a lot of my time, and then like you said, I follow my two sons around the NBA. Steph, of course, for the Warriors with the 4 rings, and then my other son Seth, who's with the Brooklyn Nets right now, and then I have 6 grandchildren as well. So I stay busy. Like you, I play a lot of golf, so it's basketball, grandkids, and golf. Right now, they keep me busy. It's a good ingredient.
Sounds pretty good.
That's a good life, man. I'll tell you what.
Sounds nice.
Before we get kind of in talking a little bit too on you raising your kids, I want to ask you just kind of your youth sports memory and the sports you played and kind of how that journey was for you.
Well, my first sport was like yours. It was baseball. My dad was a catcher in a league, and my uncle was the pitcher. So that was the battery right there. So they taught me how to pitch. And my dad, I grew up with 4 older sisters, so the youngest of 5. My dad took me everywhere he went to get me out of the house. And he was my catcher as well. So I grew up a pitcher playing baseball and shortstop. Won a state championship in high school. And when I was drafted for basketball or recruited for basketball, it was with the understanding that I would play baseball wherever I went. So it was NC State, Maryland, University of Virginia, West Virginia, and of course Virginia Tech, which is where I went. So went to Virginia Tech expecting to be a 2-sport athlete. First year, my freshman year, I got mononucleosis, couldn't play. Second year, I was invited to the Olympic trials in '84, and they were held long enough where I just couldn't get back and get ready for the baseball season. Played my junior year, 6-1, was drafted by the Orioles, but my dad said, no, you're going to stay in college. Thought my NBA career would go a little faster. But I was drafted by Texas out of high school. So, yeah, baseball was my first love. A lot of my dad's buddies still tell me, I was a better baseball player than basketball. But I decided to go the basketball route, and I think things worked out.
Worked out pretty good.
What was your go-to pitch? What was your get 'em out pitch?
In high school, I just threw the heater. I could throw it by him. In college, I learned really to throw a changeup. I could always throw a little curveball. My uncle wouldn't let me throw the curveball until I was 13 years old.
Which is smart.
Yeah. So fastball was my bread and butter. Could throw a little junk with the curveball, but in college, I learned to throw a changeup, and that really changed my pitching game.
Well, I think you chose right, though. 16-year career ended up all right for you.
There's probably some cold baseball games up at Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
I'm sure it didn't get warm there for a while.
Yeah, it really was. I did not pitch in the cold. My basketball coach and baseball coach had a little meeting, said, this is how we're going to treat this guy. We need him on the hardwood. So they took care of me on the baseball field.
Nice.
So, Dell, you've done a lot of great things yourself in the world of sports, and we could spend a whole episode talking about your career with the Hornets and everything you did at Virginia Tech, and we'll spend a little bit more time talking about that. But we really like to talk a little bit about your role as a sports parent. Our audience is primarily made up of young athletes and their parents and coaches of young kids. And we'd just love to hear some of your insights. You raised 3 kids who, 2 in basketball, 1 in volleyball, who all played Division I college. Of course, your boys have gone on to great pro careers. And we're just kind of wondering, maybe to start this conversation off, can you talk a little bit about what your kids' aspirations were as a young kid? I mean, did they start off wanting to play basketball only, volleyball? What did that look like, and how did you manage all of that?
Um, they wanted to play all sports, and we put them in any sport that they wanted to play, with one understanding that whether you like it when you get into it, whether you like it or not, you're going to finish that season, and then next year you could make the choice of
Amen.
whether to continue or not. It was baseball, it was football, soccer. My daughter did dance. We put them in any sport, try to keep them as busy as possible, and put them in any sport that they thought they would like, and knowing that they would, kind of weed out the sports that they didn't. And they kept to the promise that they, even though they got into a sport, didn't like it, they finished that year out, and then next year either pick another one or say we're going to do something else during that time. My boys. I'll go start with Steph, and he's obviously a good golfer now. He was a golfer in college, in high school as well. I thought he could have played college golf. Um, so once he played a little baseball as well, played some AAU baseball. In fact, one summer we played AAU baseball and basketball, and that was a busy summer. I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
son, we can't do this anymore. We're going to baseball practice and then going right to basketball practice. And the AAU national tournaments were in consecutive weeks. So we were in Kansas City for 1 week, flew from Kansas City to Orlando for basketball AAU. It was just too much. And then he found out he couldn't hit a curveball at the at the 13 and under AAU level as well. So he just decided on basketball and golf. That both were drawn to basketball. Obviously, seeing me play, and a lot of my teammates who I would continue to be friends with, helping to show the boys what it's all about. But Seth played baseball in high school and football. Seth was a really good wide receiver, and he could have played, I thought, college football as well. But football overlapped into basketball season too much. In his senior year, he decided to just concentrate on basketball. My daughter was volleyball was pretty much her main sport. She played basketball up until the seventh grade, her sixth grade season. I remember her coming home from practice one day, and I was like, "Honey, what's wrong?" She's like, "Dad, I got some bad news." I'm like, "What? What happened?" She goes, "I don't think I want to play basketball anymore." I'm like, "Hey, that's not bad news. That's you got to do what you're drawn to, what you love." She was arguably at that time just as good a shooter as my boys were
Wow.
in high school. But she chose the volleyball route. They went to great universities. They all have their degree right now, with Steph getting his degree this past summer. So
Yeah.
we're really
That's
proud
awesome.
of that. But it was just a good opportunity for them to just to pick the sport that they wanted to really concentrate on as they got older, and they stuck with it. They were very disciplined, worked hard, and worked out well.
So we're going to dig in a few minutes on the whole shooting aspect and how your kids, what you did to help your kids develop into amazing shooters. But I'm curious right now, like in that whole high school time, did your boys play? Did they play basketball year round, even though they were playing other sports, or did they take time off? What did that look like?
They took time off. I think that's one thing I see so many athletes now, especially at a young age. They say, "Hi, I'm a baseball player, I'm a basketball player, I'm a football player," and they dive into that sport and never venture outside. I thought it was important again for them to see all aspects of what different sports are all about. But they definitely took time off from each sport. I think playing two sports in high school gives you that time off to get away from the sport. But we made sure that they had time to kind of, as you need to do through life, you kind of need to reboot, readjust, kind of figure out where you're at, where you need to improve on, where your weaknesses are. So they definitely took time off. In fact, I took my boys. They played AAU early in their career. They started at 9. I took them out when they were about 13 or 14. I have nothing. It's, to your own benefit, however you want to obviously raise your kids. But AAU, I thought for my kids wasn't the right avenue. They weren't the biggest, they weren't the strongest, they weren't the most athletic. We decided to go with the more skill set and personal training. And then they got back into AAU between the junior and senior years to finish up. But every parent, every athlete has to kind of figure out what's the best avenue for your individual kids. So my two boys I was fortunate enough they saw their dad play at the highest level, so they kind of trusted my advice and my path that I had for them, and they went with it.
Dell, I mean, obviously you're an amazing shooter and player. Did you do most of their coaching and training? I mean, not when they were practicing and working out and doing the development work, was that something that you kind of led, or did you have other folks kind of help them with that?
Early on, yes, I definitely led. I taught them the mechanics of shooting when they were young, of course, in the backyard at the house. And I tell this story all the time. When I was in the league, I'd go around and volunteer to speak at any camp I could get to, and do a little shooting clinic that day with the understanding that both my boys would be allowed to kind of participate in the camp. So I'm talking about shooting, fingertips, elbow, follow through, all that stuff. I'm talking to the entire camp, 100 or so kids, but I'm really talking to my two that are looking at me right now. They didn't figure that out for a long time, but that was a kind of a different way of saying, hey, guys, this is how you do it. And then when I got back home, I could reiterate my point of what I talked about throughout the camp. But, yeah, I taught them the basics early. And when they were 13 or 14, I thought they needed another voice. When I took them out of AAU, I got them with, fortunate enough to have the resources to get them with another trainer. And I remember selecting that trainer, that workout guy. He was like, tell me what you think your sons need to work on. I said, no, you work them out, and then you tell me what you think they need to work on. I already know. So fortunate enough, that guy, he was spot on. And he had the ability to train and work them out. And I thought that was a great avenue for them to get a different voice, some different drills, just a different atmosphere, different energy than dad having to do it all the time.
We talk all the time. A lot of parents that listen to us have, like you did, 3 kids, 4 kids that play different sports or going around. Were all your kids kind of driven and committed? Did they love the grind, or was there some difference in them and some learning that each one had to do?
We're fortunate. They were all competitive and loved the grind. We were a competitive family, whether we played Monopoly or a game of horse in the back. Having 2 parents that were athletes, they were competitive. They understood what the competition was all about and how you had to train year-round to be your best, and that's what was expected of them. We're not just going to go halfway into a sport. After putting some time and resources into it, you're going to be all in. So I think having that fun, competitive family, growing up around that, really helped get to where they are today.
So I got to ask this. Are you still a competitive family when y'all all get together? Are there any horse games going on now? And who's winning?
Absolutely. We're really the boys are really competitive on the golf course.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Whether we're having a putting contest after the round or whatever, even on the range, we do a little bit of shooting. I'm 58 now. I got to win that game early. I got to win the first 2 or 3. If we go beyond that, Pops is going to fade out. But we still do. I go and speak at the camps that the boys have, and that's the first thing. You guys have a shooting contest. I can still shoot a little bit. I often tell my coworker here, Eric Collins, who I love working with the Hornets. He goes, what's it like now? Do you still shoot? I said, Eric, if you were a shooter in the NBA, you should always be able to shoot. That's the last thing to go. And my shooting is far from leaving. So I can still shoot a little bit, just not as long as I used to.
Oh gosh. That's great. As your boys developed and they, like you said, the AAU and in high school, you played a long time and you know a lot about the game. How was it watching them be coached by other coaches? And what were some good coaches and things they did for your kids? And if there were any, what were some of the coaches you struggled with and why?
I can't say I had any coaches I struggled with because when my boys were in the AAU circuit, me and some friends, we started our own AAU team
Yep.
in Charlotte. So we were able to control that atmosphere, write our own narrative in the AAU. And of course, I was a big part of that coaching and was able to pick the coaches for the team. So and then, of course, selecting a high school, fortunate enough that my kids were able to go to the private school and we could kind of, get a good range of what the coaches were like there. And actually, when I retired in '02, I actually helped coach my sons in high school. My son, Stephen, he loved having me as a coach. His brother, 2 years younger. And it's amazing, if you have multiple kids, how different they are. And my daughters and sons, they're all different individual people, and I love that about them. But I knew Seth liked to do things on his own. So his senior year, I said, Seth, I know you don't mind me coaching, but I know you would rather me not be on the bench. So I'm going to make a deal with you. I won't coach your senior year. I'm going to let you do your thing. I trust that you're going to do what's right. I'm going to be at practice, but I will not coach on the games. But the minute I think you're slipping, I'm coming back on the bench. And he was like, fair enough. So, and then, of course, in college, with Stephen going to Bob McKillop at Davidson, I mean, no, one of the best coaches to ever coach in the collegiate level, Bob McKillop, who just retired last year. What a
Yeah.
great friend, great coach, great person, great mentor for your son. He's a big reason why Stephen is the player he is today. And Seth starting at Liberty under Richie McKay. I know Richie, again, a great man of faith, great coach. And then I had that talk with Seth after his freshman year. I'm thinking, hey, developed as a player. I think you need to play at a higher level. And him getting the opportunity to go to play at Duke under Coach K. What can you say about Coach K?
Yeah.
So my kids
Wow.
had all great coaching, and even my daughter at Elon, her volleyball coach, had been there for 20 plus years. So fortunate enough to have great coaches, great role models, and mentors for all three kids.
That's great.
Hey, Dell, you just mentioned, Davidson and Liberty and Elon, none of which are Power Five schools, and a lot of kids, coming along, that's their dream to play at a Power Five school. Can you just kind of speak to, I mean, obviously your boys have had pretty prolific careers, going a different route than the big Power Five school. Can you talk about those choices and why kids ought to consider something other than the biggest schools?
Well, in my three kids, especially the boys, they didn't meet the the eye
Yeah.
test. Again, back to AAU, they weren't the biggest, fastest, strongest, most athletic. I often talk about Stephen graduating high school 6'1", 145, and that's if he came out of the pool fully dressed. Um, but and Seth was a little bigger as far as weight, but about the same height. But they knew how to play. They were great. Had certain set of skills. Knew how to play the game correctly. So wasn't highly recruited. But I told them you got to go somewhere where they absolutely want you. First you're going to get a quality education. You're going to enjoy your experience there, and there's some history to the program. Davidson met cast in all three of those with Bob McKillop and the Davidson Wildcats. Great experience there, and they played a tremendous out of conference schedule, one of the best in the country back then. Played a lot of the ACC schools, and then with Seth going to Duke and playing the ACC, you're playing against the best in the world. But I'll tell every athlete, go somewhere where they really want you. You're going to play. You're going to get a good experience. And if you're good enough, the pros, the next level will find you, and you'll have an opportunity to play at that level. If you're not, you're going to get a good education. Hopefully, be go to a community where you can be a contributor not only in the workforce but in your community as well. But a lot of kids that have just focused on being a Power Five conference or one of the biggest, things don't work out there because you're not meant to be there. But wherever you play, if you're good enough to play at the next level, you'll have an
And
opportunity.
you got to be a proud dad, Dell, when you think about the way you did it and with all three of your kids, not just the boys, but with your daughter too, because in a day, and this is what we talk about, I'm getting in with my kids now of, you got to play just this sport at 10 years old and you got to do this and you got to do that. Your kids are, for example, someone that developed a little bit later, but you kept giving them opportunities and they kept playing and eventually it worked for them.
Yeah, I mean, playing different sports, especially at a young age, you develop different muscles in your body. You develop different work ethics. Some sports are totally individual, like golf. And then you have basketball where there's five on a team. You have soccer, football, there's 11. So there's different things you can learn from all different sports. The different coaches, the way they coach the team, the way they help you prepare as an athlete, all that can help you in when you decide to hone in on that one particular sport that you want to play. So, and as a parent, other than baseball, I really didn't know a lot about how to go about football and practicing and the plays. So I was learning as well. It was fun for me to go to practice and hang out and watch that stuff. So yeah, and I think at a young age, it's just good for a kid's mindset to say, hey, I can go out and try different sports, try different things, explore, and it creates good life lessons down the road.
Dell, as you're watching your kids grow and develop, and you said that they didn't pass the eye test, but did you, as a dad, especially with the boys, did you believe that they had the ability to play at a high level? And honestly, when they came to you, probably frustrated that they felt like they weren't getting the respect maybe from Power Five coaches, were you there to kind of tell them, hey, look, I see something in you. I've been at the highest levels. I mean, did you believe it? Did you think they could get to where they got to? And then did you have to kind of encourage them to kind of keep fighting?
I got to be honest, I think they'd be pros. I had no idea. It takes a lot to be a professional athlete in that particular sport. We just wanted them to get a college degree at any level. But I think being a parent, obviously, you're there to encourage your kids and let them know that you have their back. You're going to do everything you can to make them a success in whatever sport there is. And I get asked that question all the time, that I think my boys would play in the NBA. I had no idea. I know it was their goal to play, and I was going to do whatever I could to help them reach their goal. But it was ultimately, it would come a point in time where it was up to them. Dad could only do so much. They'd have to have that work ethic, that discipline, that desire to get to what it takes to play at the highest level. I thought after Stefan's freshman year, and Bob McKillop and I had that conversation, he goes, "Hey, your son's going to make some money playing this game." I'm like, "Yeah, okay. Maybe is it in Europe? You don't know. There's different areas where you can make money." And Seth at Duke, I thought after his, he plays freshman year at Liberty, transfers, sits out. I thought after his junior year, watching Stephen get into the league and kind of take off. After Seth's junior year, I'm like, okay, I think he's a professional player as well. But I'm just as proud as of Seth as I am of Stephen. Watching his brother get drafted seventh, kind of his career take off after the first 4 years, and he's still in college. Playing at Duke, not being, getting the accolades or the attention, not getting drafted, playing his senior year with a stress fracture, not being able to practice, and after his senior year having surgery. I said, son, it's going to be a 2-year window before you get a shot in the league. So he goes to the G League, works his tail off in Erie, Pennsylvania. I don't know if you've been there in the summer, in the wintertime in Erie, but I went up a couple times, watched him play. I'm like, dude, you're disciplined enough to play. If you can have the focus and the discipline in Erie, Pennsylvania, in the heart of the winter, to play like they're playing, you have the mindset to be an NBA player. He was ready when he got his shot. So super proud of him as well.
That's great because you talk, yes, Steph with all these accolades, but Seth and what your daughter has accomplished. So as a dad and as a coach, how did you kind of divide your time with the kids? Because I think that's one of the things our parents get a lot. you sometimes think the oldest kid gets the most attention because they're the first ones. How did you and Sonia have to kind of split that up as y'all went through it with them?
It was a lot of times where I went to this tournament, she went to that tournament, and we were crisscrossing around, obviously. And that happened until they reached the high school level. Um, and then they were, it was a varsity and JV, and then they were able to play on the same team. So it was a little juggling act early and getting it started and making sure that we were there for their support, and we made sure the other two kids were at, if Stephen had a game, the other two went. Whoever was playing, the other two kids would go there to support each other. We're going to make sure that they had that support as well. I didn't know much about volleyball, just watching it. So when my daughter played volleyball, I was the line judge at every match.
It's a lot of pressure
kept
right
me
there.
involved.
It's a
Yeah,
lot of pressure.
it was a lot of pressure, no doubt. But I had that notoriety. People, if I missed a call, it wasn't a big. They stayed off me pretty much, but it kept me involved there. So, we were very supportive of each other. Family, especially when the kids were young, growing up, making sure that, hey, we're going to be there, win, lose, or draw, to support each other.
Yeah, I was going to say, we had David Pollock on a couple weeks ago, and he said something that you just said about 3 minutes ago, where you said, you can help your kid, but it's your kid that's going to have to want to excel. They're going to have to want it. It's their journey eventually. And, so you look back for you, what are 2 or 3 things that, at home as parents, y'all try to instill in your 3 kids that help them get to that level?
One, they had chores, and they had weekly chores, and if they weren't done, you were not going to participate in your event. And one, that school came first. You can be the best athlete, but if you don't have the grades to get to the next level, you're not going to get there. So we made sure that the chores were done, the school work was prepared, and then, hey, you can go play your sport. But I think to set that discipline and that goal ahead of time, to say, if I want to do this, this must come first. And I think that's the way it is in life too. Nothing is easy. Nothing's going to be given to you. You got to have goals. You got to be disciplined. You got to get up and say, hey, this is my task today. This is what I have to do. And other people are counting on me to do that. We were like, look, if you do what you need to do here at home, you're not only letting yourself down, you're letting your teammates down as well, who are counting on you to be there to show up, to help them win, and help them reach their goal. So that's the biggest thing. And then you're going to give 100% in whatever you do. You're not going to not practice because you don't feel like it. You got a little injury. No, you're going to go. You're going to be a full participant. So just the discipline part, I think, is the biggest thing that you can set at a young age.
Okay, let's talk shooting now. And I don't know if you were offended. I mean, his son Steph taught a master class in shooting, and I think this is a guy probably they should have asked you first to teach the master class. I mean, not only were you one of the greatest shooters in the NBA, but you raised 2 of the best shooters in the NBA, and maybe the best shooter of all time. So I'll start us off with a question. As someone who has seen and went to a lot of clinics, I mean, it is a great shooter born, or is it made? Is it nature, or is it nurture? When you look at a kid at a young age shoot, you're like, okay, he can be taught this, or is it just kind of a feel he's got great hands, or what is that?
That's a great question. I think great shooters I think they're born with it. I'd like to think that they got a little bit of my blood going through that helped as well. So you have to have that skill. And then to become great, you have to work and develop and continue to work at that skill. You can't say, okay, I can shoot the ball, I'm good, I can work on my other aspects of my game. Now you got to continue to work and challenge yourself every single year, every single day to be that shooter. So now bad shooters can get better through that work, through that same scenario of going to the gym to work. I think they'll be good, but they'll never be great. So and I think you're kind of born with it, God-given ability that you're born with it. Maybe you're inherited some of that shooting ability, but without the work ethic and honing in and continuing to develop and get better at something that your God has blessed you with, you're just wasting your talent.
I remember watching a documentary where it said, I forget what year it was, that you basically kind of broke down Steph's shot and made him start over again. I guess when he got strong enough to shoot it a certain way. And what age was that that you had to do that?
Between his sophomore and junior year, he used to shoot from the waist, and he'd make them. I'm like, son, that's great. If you want to go to college, he goes, yes, sir. I'm like, well, we got to change your shot. He's like, what? I'm like, yeah, you're gonna have to move it over your head. And he was a little guy. He wasn't strong at all. That was a really difficult summer. We tag teamed him every day, and for a month he couldn't shoot outside the paint. He just wasn't strong enough to shoot it up over his head. But again, I think he trusted me in that, going to my game saying, hey, my old man can shoot. Maybe he knows what I'm talking about. But you could see once it started to work and it started to click and it started to shoot and go in, you could see his confidence growing and growing every day, every week. And then it was just off from there. Seth never had to change his shot. He was always a little stronger, a little bigger. Always shot the ball particularly well from overhead. Had great mechanics from me, just honing in on that early. But Stephen, that was a really difficult summer. He thought about maybe this sport isn't for me if this is how I got to do it.
Might have to go back to hitting curveballs.
Yeah, right. You're changing something I thought I was pretty good at and telling me I'm not. I got to change it. What's going on?
So Dell, how much time, and I'm really just asking this on behalf of parents out there and kids, how much time did they spend on shooting? As let's say, like if you remember back, let's say as middle schoolers and then as high schoolers, I mean, were they shooting an hour a day? I mean, what did that look like?
Yeah, well, back then I had a house. We had a full court with lights, so they were on it constantly. But I always tell kids and parents this: it's not how many shots you take; it's how many shots you make. So if you can think about it doesn't. I don't know if this number will sound big or not, but 300 to 500 makes. That means average kids are taking a lot of shots. So I don't know how long it would take you to do that. It obviously depends on how good a shooter you are, but it's how many shots you make, not how many shots you take. But the kids were out there all hours of the day, and we were a popular spot at our house. The kids would always bring kids want to come over. I remember going to their their rec league games, and we'd be in the car going over like, hey, no one comes home with us today. Okay, this is just going to be our day. Nobody's coming back with us today. But yeah, they had a lot of good friends, and the kids have a lot of friends that they grew up with that went on to play college ball, and some even in the pros. So we like to think that not only did we touch our three, but we touched the community as well.
Man, if I had to make 500 shots, my light bill would be up and be on all night, man. I'll tell you that. As a dad, what was that like in 2019 for you, watching your boys play in the Western Conference Finals? I mean, I know it's a proud moment, but what are you doing? You sitting there, it's tight late in the game. What's going through Dell Curry's mind?
And they're guarding each other.
Yeah. It was fun for me. Early when they got in college and in the league, especially in college, you want your kids obviously to play well. I'm a little nervous, but once I looked and said, hey, these guys can play. They know what they're doing. They got the best coaches in the world, the best instruction. I can sit back as a dad, as an NBA fan, and just have fun. So it was really I enjoyed it. It was not pressure at all. Somebody's got to lose. Somebody's got to move on. I would often say that Steph already had a ring by then. I'd love to see that Steph had a ring by then. I would love to see Seth going and try to get a ring, but it would not be. But it was fun to see those guys go at it. And I love the attitude of Seth. He's always had the attitude of, what's the big deal? Y'all making a big deal out of Steph. I used to beat his butt in the backyard, man. So that's the attitude of Seth Curry, man. He has a lot of swag to his game, a lot of confidence. He's a quiet guy, but he wants to win at all costs on the floor.
When y'all are in Tahoe together, and I know they love to put you three together out there, how much trash talking is going on out there?
It's a lot. And our three caddies, the six of us, we're the best of friends. So we all fly into Steph's there in San Francisco, and we get a car and we all drive up to Tahoe together. We're making the wager with the caddies involved. A lot of trash talking is going in, but that's the highlight of the year for us to be able to walk the course and play with a bunch of guys in a great setting, great tournament. We're so fortunate now that Seth's game is good enough where he can go up and play. Seth really worked on his game, and with the right amount, Seth actually beat us. We gave him too many points. We got to work on that next year. But that's the highlight of our year, being able to go up and spend a week in Tahoe with our closest friends and make it kind of a guy's trip.
Well, it amazed me. I was playing at the Cal Club earlier this year when the Braves were out in Frisco, and I saw Steph out there. It's amazing. His swing speed for a smaller guy. I mean, it's like a Rory McIlroy. He pounds it.
He can kill. He has tour length,
Yeah,
no
he
doubt
does.
about it. And of course, he's played on that. It used to be the Web, but that
Korn
golf
Ferry
tour. He's got a short game as well. Thinks he can make every putt that he stands over, but his hands are so soft. But he's long off the tee, and he wants to back pops up to those tips, man. That's
the advantage, man.
I don't know. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's his advantage. Yeah, but it's fun times. Anytime we can tee it up. Cal Club's are great. I love that
It's
track.
awesome,
Great membership. Yeah.
So, Dell, a couple things I want to ask you. One is, and you kind of talked a little bit about this, but I mean, your kids are, obviously they're great players, but you just talked about playing golf with them and having fun, and a lot of players, whether they reach the pinnacles or not, they don't have great relationships with their parents after youth sports. Their parents are all over them. And so I'd like you to talk a little bit about that, a little bit about the whole idea of you're raising people to be successful in life, not just to be athletes. And your kids are, they're high character folks. They're good teammates in this world of individualism. You don't see a lot of that out of them. They're confident, and you got to be, but can you just talk about, how you and Sonia invested in them to land where you are now with them?
When I was in the NBA, I often tell people that it's professional sports. It's a kind of a fantasy world. It's really not the real world. So we tried to make our kids' lives as normal as possible. We gave them everything they needed, but not everything they wanted. If they really wanted something, we said, okay, then you're going to save. This is what you're going to do. I think they appreciated that. I think right now they're very fortunate that we could pull back and not be that hands-on parent when they got to the NBA, not continue to grab from them. When I pick up the phone and call, they know I don't want anything. I just want to say, hey, how you doing? I don't even particularly talk about basketball. They know I've watched the game, but they got coaches, they got film sessions, they got everybody just talking about what they did wrong, what they need to work on. I'm calling, asking about, how you doing, what you up to, how's my grandkids. So I think they were fortunate in that they had parents that could just release them and say, hey, we're good. You guys go live your life, go have fun, go concentrate, go build your family. We're going to be good with whatever we're going through. Don't worry about it. We're adults. You guys go on. If you need to be, if we need help or want to talk to you about something, we can do that also. But you guys go on and concentrate and take care and form your life like you need to be. We tried to be great role models in that when they were growing up. Again, making their life as normal as possible. And I think they really, as they grew and got older, looking back, they were like, "Hey, okay, I see what our parents are trying to do. They were not spoiled by it any way at all. If we wanted something, we worked for it. We made sure that that we really wanted, and we appreciated that effort. So we have great relationships with our kids, with their spouses, with our grandkids. So we're very fortunate in that area.
Amen. That's the most important thing. Finishing up here, Dell, we got a couple more questions for you before we let you go. You guys done a great job, like I said, with the kids, yourself raising up. What's one piece of advice that you have for young developing shooters, guys that are looking, girls that are looking to take their basketball game to the next level, maybe besides just to get out there and shoot? What are a couple things they can do to really work on?
Don't think that you can't do something. One of my best friends is Muggsy Bogues, and he has to always believe. I mean, 5'3" to play in the NBA. How many times did people tell him you can't do something? So don't. It's up to you if you want to be somebody, do something that people think maybe you shouldn't. You should go another route. You have to have that inner confidence to do it yourself, and then that goal to go do it. Maybe that chip on your shoulder is needed at some point in time when people tell you you can't do something. You should go look the other way. Obviously, the work. That's involved. It's got to be there. The work ethic, the time put into it, but the mindset of who's in your inner circle and that they're telling you the right things and that they're being truthful to you as a person. I see so many guys that have that entourage, that people that just they're all shaking their head, yes, yes, yes. You got to have somebody in your circle that loves you enough to tell you the truth, whether you want to hear it or not, whether it's good news or bad news. And you got to trust that person and believe what they say and take it for good and try to work with it.
Awesome. And my last question, you talk about that was, for young kids, to the parents listening, y'all did such a great job with your kids. What's one piece of advice you could tell them as their kids go on their journey through middle school, through high school, just a nugget for them to know how to parent better, how, as you said, how to have that relationship when you're done with your kids from sports?
You have to be able to separate. If you're the coach and the parent, it's a fine line you got to walk. But you can't live. Obviously, you can't live through your kid. I think that's another thing that my kids are fortunate enough. I've already played my sport. Sonia played her sport in college, so we know what it's like to be an athlete. We don't have to live through our kids and try to get them to the level that we weren't able to achieve. They were able to have fun, and they knew we were going to be loved and proud whether they made it or not. But you cannot live through your kid. You cannot take the game home. You got to be able to separate the game from a parent. Your kid's got to be able to walk into a room and not think, oh my gosh, I'm going to get ridiculed. I'm going to be talked about this game or this play or what happened. You got to make your home as peaceful as possible for your kid growing up, so that they can give their all in the classroom, on the team game, team bus, whatever. So just try to have a normal household as possible. Have whatever resources you can give to help your kid be the best they can at this sport. Do it, and don't think that you're making an investment for yourself, that your kid has to owe you something to give back when they reach the pinnacle. Do it because you love your kid and you want to see them be successful.
Man, that's great stuff.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Hey, 90 seconds. I got one segment we like to do, 10 questions, rapid fire. It's called Keeping It Real with Dell Curry. Who was the toughest guy to guard you ever played against?
Other than Michael Jordan, he's clearly that guy. But Joe Dumars from the Bad Boys.
Yeah.
Joe Dumars. Yeah.
Favorite golf course you've ever played? And maybe if it's Augusta, I know, besides there too.
Yeah. Kings Barnes over in Scotland.
It's that place is the best, isn't it, man?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Best TV show you've watched this year?
Best TV, Yellowstone.
Yes. Your favorite arena to broadcast from?
Other than the Hornets arena?
Yeah.
They're moving us all upstairs now. So I'm going to say what's an arena that's down on the floor? Because as a broadcaster, I want to hear the game. I want to be a part of the game. I want a coach to come over and ask me, should I replay that? So there's so few arenas now that I'm broadcasting on the floor. So wherever that is.
What arena's got the best food?
Oh, Detroit.
Love that. Your favorite athlete growing up?
Julius Erving.
Yeah, it's a tough one to beat, man. Who's your current favorite NBA team besides the Hornets?
I've got three. I've got the Warriors, I've got the Nets, and my son-in-law plays for the Suns.
Yeah.
So I'm watching a lot of NBA this time of year.
Oh man. Three more. Who's your dream golf foursome?
Obviously me, Stephen, Seth, and I know this may be corny, but my son-in-law Damien, who's an since he joined the family, he's got the bug.
He's got no
and
choice
he's improving
to have
every
the bug.
year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Your favorite music artist?
Favorite music artist? I'm all over the place here. Darius Rucker.
Nice. Yeah, he loves golf too, man. He grinds.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
And
yeah,
last question. Top of the key, 3-point shot for $1 million. You, Steph, or Seth?
I gotta go me. I call myself the originator, man.
Yes.
I started this. I gotta go me.
Oh man. Well, I'll tell you what, Dell. We can't thank you for taking time with us today. I know these parents and the athletes are going to love it. Yes, they might not get to Steph and Seth, but what we really want in this is for kids to experience a great childhood and love and playing sports. And more than anything is having relationships with their families when they're done. So thank you for taking time.
Thanks for having me, guys. And I hope my sons really exude how much fun they are still having playing the game of basketball. That's what it's all about. Whatever sport you play, if you're not having fun with it, you're not going to be your best. And they're making a great living playing a game, and they're loving every minute of it. And I hope that shows.
That does.
Thank you.
It does. Thank you, Dell.
Thanks.
All right,
Dell.
man. Hey, next time you come to Atlanta, I got you a Peachtree, okay?
Okay, sounds good, man. Thanks.
Thanks,
all right,
bud.
guys.
Appreciate
Have
you.
fun.
Take care.
All right, see you guys.
Hey guys, Jeff Francoeur here. Thanks for checking out Pure Athlete, and subscribe to our channel on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you go to listen to our podcast.